Okay. Hi, I'm Madeline.
And I'm MaryGrace.
And we were both Corps members at the Atlantic region for the National Civilian Community Corps, serving in Class 22 during 2016.
You said Atlantic region, right?
Well, yes.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
yeah.
Where else were we?
Oh, yeah, exactly. So, there are 5 regions in America. So it's like America. Bleh. Okay. There are 5 regions in America. It's very similar to Peace Corps, except National Civilian Community Corps is based off of in America.
Mm-hmm.
It's for college-age students ranging from 18 to 24. Although
you don't have to be a student. I mean, I wasn't a student.
Well, yeah, you don't have to be. I think it's just the age range, like they kind of directed towards college kids because they offer you a scholarship that's almost like $6,000, and I mean it depends too because some programs are part-time, they offer less or more, or I don't know.
Yeah, but it's a volunteer program, and they do a variety of different projects, from environmental stewardship, urban and rural development, energy conservation, disaster relief. There's also a 5th area that escapes me. But it's a wide range of different service opportunities in communities all across the country.
Yeah, and definitely, and the short term for his NCCC, basically that was more of like the labor work, and FEMA was more of the paperwork, right?
They were more of like the organizers. NCCC is sort of like the sister program to FEMA. FEMA specifically handles disaster response, and they usually handle the more administrative side of disaster response, deciding like who goes where, who does what, whereas NCCC is like boots on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't just do disaster work, we do a variety of stuff.
Right. They'd be called our sponsors, so basically nonprofit sectors. You also get to volunteer in like festivals. There were several festivals because we were stationed in Baltimore. That's where we were trained. So yeah, we definitely did a lot of local events, including DC, because DC's only an hour outside of Baltimore. So yeah. So this video is a review.
Yep.
I know I'm making another video with I guess some more positive, because our experiences are a little bit different. See, we were in different we were in the same unit, but we were on different teams. We were both Falcons.
Yeah, their Atlantic region at the time we served had 3 units of 5 teams. So we were both in Falcon unit. She was in Falcon 1. I was in Falcon 5. We were actually the first Falcon unit. Apparently the year before they'd had a Raven unit that they'd retired, and so then that year they put in a Falcon unit. And I think then they retired Falcon unit after we left because like the class after us only had 2 units. Like Atlantic region is very small. Of the 5 campuses and the 5 regions, it's the smallest. It has the smallest like area that it covers. Like each there are 5 campuses across the country where everyone is sort of like, it's like home base. Like you go there for training, you go there in between projects. And so there's 5. There's one in Sacramento, California that serves the Pacific region.
That's where we all want to go.
There's one in Denver, Colorado, which serves the mountain region. There's one in Vicksburg, Mississippi that serves southern region. There's one in Vinton, Iowa that serves north central region. And then Baltimore serves the Atlantic region. And yeah, it had the smallest number of people there. Depending on what region you get sent to, they're vastly different sizes. We had the smallest campus, we had the smallest area. Like seriously, like when I was reading about this, it's like you get sent to a campus, there's a campus that you'll be trained at, and like we drove up there, like they'll fly you out, they'll pay for your ticket. They pay for your ticket when you go to the program, and they pay for your ticket home. And like when we arrived, like I was in a van with all these other people that had, come in, and like we drove up to this thing, and I'm just like, that's it? Like it wasn't so much a campus as it was a schoolhouse.
When we pulled up, it was funny because I remember my teammate Michael was like, "Oh hell no," and stuff because Do you remember that conference call? We had a conference call before.
Oh yeah, not everybody could get in on the conference call, so somebody was like putting notes on Facebook because like only a few people could like get in on the conference call beforehand.
And it was funny because I'm not naming who, but one of my teammates, who would be my teammate, one of the first questions she asked was, "Are we in the ghetto?" Because some of us, have been in like pretty bad neighborhoods, and some of us were not about to, serve while being in a dangerous environment.
And then they put us in Dundalk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember everyone laughing on that phone conference call because, like, I mean, it was kind of funny because I remember pulling up in the van, and I kind of liked the neighborhood because, like, the old aesthetics of, like, I mean, it was a Catholic neighborhood, but there were issues throughout the year. There were prostitutes, apparently, if you remember.
Yeah, they like made like a public announcement about that. It's like, yep, there are some women that like to hang out on this intersection to work, and don't.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a pretty eventful year because so apparently other regions. So every region is different, and we've met people who have already been in NCCC or FEMA, like, so they already had experience. So they were like a second year person or a third year person. So I haven't heard a single good thing coming out of the mouths of those people compared to their experiences prior.
Yeah, from what we gathered, we've both only served once, we only did one service term in Atlantic Region the same year. But yeah, from everything we've heard, Atlantic Region has a terrible reputation in NCCC and AmeriCorps in general, just for being incredibly disorganized.
Well, I don't know if was it always like that. I don't remember.
I don't know.
Apparently, it's been told, like, especially, it's a long story, but when we were deployed to Louisiana, I even remember my team leader, he mentioned that Atlantic Region was a joke. Like, I don't know if I remember telling you or if you've heard, but I remember my team leader.
I don't know. I just remember a lot of second years talking about what's wrong with this place. Like, people who'd served at different campuses in different regions are like, yeah, it's not like this in other places. Like, and obviously every region is a bit different. I mean, they're all NCCC, so there are like, there's a general blanket of like rules and guidelines and just like things that you do that are the same, but each region is a bit different, and the way they do things, and every class is different, every year is different, and so that is one thing that I think we should kind of just make clear. Like, we are two people, out of the however many. I think the year we served, they like made announcements like 1 million people have served in AmeriCorps now, like since its inception, like over the 20 some years it's existed, like we've reached the million man mark basically. So like out of all those people, we are only two, and our experiences are our own. So just bear that in mind when we talk about the things that we talk about, because this is specific to us, and like second years will tell you, like, there's so much that goes into service year, and they know, especially because they've done it multiple times, but it's like where you get sent, who's on your team, who your team leader is, what projects you get, and then of course the myriad of personal things that you may be going through at that point in your life. There's so much that goes into your AmeriCorps experience, and whether or not it's a positive or less than positive
right.
one.
So definitely you had a worse experience than I did, but I definitely had my own issues. One of my biggest issues, and I'll go first since I have less issues, but
I think
well, not that
specifically to AmeriCorps, perhaps. Okay.
So my issue with the Atlantic Region essentially was so I already had some mental health issues prior to going, and they offered like secondary insurance or something like that.
Yeah, we were supposed to get, everyone in the Corps got like insurance, And like that was one of the things that bugged me too, because I didn't quite understand how our insurance was supposed to work, because like we got it and I was under the impression it's like, okay, yeah, you go to a clinic or whatever, you show them the card, and then like AmeriCorps is supposed to take care of the medical expense. But every time I went to a clinic, it's like they wouldn't accept it. And like I, even after I like would argue with them, it's like it's like, yeah, we don't recognize the insurance, we won't take that. But then afterwards it's like, oh, they were supposed to have taken it, like you should have like talked to so and so and like gotten that sorted out. It's like I was going to a clinic to deal with a health issue, and like I couldn't not go in, and like they wouldn't let me in without me doing this. But okay, you go.
Oh no, like yeah, you're right. Like yeah, the insurance was confusing at times, and I had like some billing issues later, like when we were on vacation. But anyway, so Atlantic region, I guess like, you know, I told the counselor there that, you know, I had depression, and it was, at the time it was mild, like it was manageable, but I still wanted to, you know, to be on an antidepressant, you know, just in case it got a little worse. And so what happened, anyone who basically, you know, told the counselors that, you know, like I have a mental health issue, I need to see a psychiatrist, how can I, you know, go ahead and do that? She took us to a psychiatrist in DC. And I remember actually one of my teammates, he actually went like at a separate time, but he just got just the heebie-jeebies from this psychiatrist. Apparently he has like a son that works in Hollywood. I don't know, like it was like he was rich. But I remember going in there and, you know, just telling him like, you know, I have mild depression, like can I be on an antidepressant? He puts me on this medicine, you know, like neuromedicine or whatnot. But the thing was, you know, he was asking me questions that basically led him to find out that I had ADHD, which I kind of knew. I've always had ADHD, but I never been on like Adderall or like Ritalin. I had zero knowledge about these drugs, and he just threw it to me like candy. So he prescribes me Vyvanse, and he didn't even explain what it was, how it can be addictive, how it works like that. It's not like, because I already knew antidepressants, it takes a while to build up in your system, but I didn't realize, like, you know, what the storm that was about to happen. So like a week later, you know, it's a controlled substance, so like my team leader got it from my counselor because she had to go pick it up from the pharmacy. As soon as I popped this pill, my eyes got big. I was jumping all over. I was the happiest mother effer in that campus. Like I remember running up the stairs screaming, "I feel alive!" Like I was just like, I had never felt so, and I think that's why like a lot of my happy experiences in AmeriCorps were enhanced, but also my bad experiences were enhanced because I became an addict to Vyvanse. And I didn't realize, and at first it was all sunshine and rainbows, right? But later down the road, I started having withdrawal issues. I started having anger issues that I've never had before. So thanks to that psychiatrist, yeah, that didn't work out very well, especially since
and
that was
she's not the only one either. It was kind of a thing where if you go to the counselor, she'd send you to this person, like like one of my teammates, like later on in the year, like one of my teammates, the same thing happened to her.
Yeah,
like
we went together, me and this girl.
It's basically like you go to the counselor to discuss a mental health problem, and like you get sent to this doctor and you get put on these pills that you don't really need or are too strong, or you know, it's like they want, I got the impression it was almost like they want to get you on a pill so that you're good and you're ready to work again. It's like they don't want to actually
that was the issue.
Like talk to you.
Also, and I could go on because there's even more to this than like this topic. So I lost a best friend to suicide short after, like in around March or April. The counselor that, you know, sent me to the psychiatrist, I didn't even get a chance to tell her what happened until like the end of round 2. You know, because each round is like what, like 2.5 months or 3 months?
Maybe we should specify, I don't remember if we said it, but we served in the year 2016. We arrived in Baltimore in February, and then we left in November. So that's sort of our timeline. It's February to November of 2016. And for those who are not familiar with how AmeriCorps works, your year is divided up into a series of rounds, and each round you do 1 or 2 projects where you get sent off somewhere. Atlantic region does 4 rounds. I know certain regions do 3. I don't know which ones. But yeah, we had 4 rounds. So the first one, the first 2 were about 6 weeks long, and then the second 2, rounds 3 and 4, were about 8 weeks long. So a month and a half, 2 months devoted to each of these projects. Sorry, I derailed you.
Oh, no. So I know, and this is kind of weird. So the one other big issue, and I know you probably have a lot to say on this too. So there were certain members who were not kicked out, even though they were very problematic. But I knew 2 people in AmeriCorps who got kicked out because of mental health issues. 2 of them who were completely hard workers. They did what they were told. They were not problematic. They
just needed a little extra help.
Yeah, and they got booted out immediately. And I actually, and again, we're not going to name anybody, but I had a teammate who should have been kicked out the first week.
Yeah, I know who she's talking about, and he was something.
I mean,
really
God
was.
love him. I loved everybody on my team, even though
I didn't love him. I thought he was a dumbass. But okay.
Well, I'm a dumbass, so I can relate.
He was a special kind of dumbass.
Yeah, that's a story I might talk about in my video because it's kind of funny.
He was delusional. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, So basically, long story short, Atlantic region kind of had favorites. I mean, that's what it seemed like to me, because there were people who were being kicked out. There was one person, again, I don't want to say any names, but I think there was one person who was actually drinking for a very, they were breaking curfew, and they've gotten in trouble several times, and then they got kicked out the last day.
Well, I mean, there were a lot of people that had alcohol issues, because one of my teammates, during round 2, he was underage, but he came back to our housing drunk. Okay, yeah, so this one teammate of mine, he came back drunk, and he was, too young to be drinking, and nothing happened to him. I don't know how exactly the discipline system worked, because I was a good noodle. Nothing bad happened to me, except until the end, and we'll get to that. Yeah, so I don't know. There are a lot of rules, and obviously, it's just straight up illegal for you to be, under 21 and drinking. And that is something that will get you in trouble in AmeriCorps. Yeah, there are a lot of things. If you break rules, if you do something wrong, you will get a disciplinary hearing, or even a dismissal hearing. If it's bad enough, you'll actually meet with the higher ups, and they will talk about what happened and decide what they're going to do with you, basically. There are 2 things that will get you an automatic dismissal in NCCC, and that is if you do illicit drugs or if you provide alcohol to an underage person. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of other things that will get you dismissed too. But
let's talk about the team that got kicked out was smoking weed with the sponsor.
Yeah, there was that. One of the teams, early on in the year, basically got dissolved, and there was actually a lot going on with that, because I know there was a picture that got circulated that was the proof that some of them had been smoking weed with a sponsor. But I also heard someone else was telling me that there were people on the team that were doing weed, but there was one person on the team, I think she was ATL on that team or something, and she'd basically written a list of names and descriptions of what they'd done, basically ratting everybody out. But she misrepresented some people, and she claimed that they were doing drugs or doing weed or something when they hadn't been. And they were brought in, and they were we will submit to a drug test right now to prove we're clean. And they do drug tests in AmeriCorps. Like, everybody gets a preliminary one at the beginning, and then they will do random tests throughout the year. I guess only to people who they suspect.
It's funny because I know one of my friends, when we were in New York, when we were with that one other team, my buddy, he got... So apparently his team leader would trick him and be like, hey, you want to go out for lunch? He'd be like, okay. And then turns out, like, no, he said that he didn't even get lunch. Like, he just ended up getting a drug test. Like, I swear he told me that story. Like, it happened twice, apparently. I'm sorry, that is just kind of fucking funny to me. Like,
yeah, that's okay. But
anyway.
Yeah, so there were people on this team, they're like, I'm clean, I'm innocent, like, don't kick me out of this program, like, this person is not telling the truth about me. And I guess she did it as, like, a way to not really cover her own butt, but, like, to, like, gain favor or something, like, because she was actually explaining what had happened. And they were still kicked out. Like, they volunteered to submit to a drug test.
That, yeah.
They volunteered, and they were not given one, and they were dismissed without a hearing.
Yeah.
And so, and I actually heard, like, one of the person's families was actually, like, consulting a lawyer or something. I have no idea what happened to this.
I've heard rumors that Atlantic Region had been, like, sued. They had been attempted to be sued.
Okay. But yeah, no, I had a friend telling me about all of this, and it's like, okay, they actually, like, asked to submit to a drug test to prove, that they hadn't done anything, because they know that that's one of the two things that'll get you an automatic dismissal. They asked, and they were denied it. Like, they were denied the opportunity to prove that. Yeah. Like, when I heard about this, like, that's bullshit. Like, and I said it. We were all sitting at a Chick-fil-A, and I just said kind of loudly, "That's bullshit." And, like, she's like, "Shh, like there are kids here." Like, but yeah, I was astounded by it. Yeah, there were a lot of things that the administration did or didn't do that really bothered me. There was a lot of disorganization, lack of communication, favoritism.
I know my badass team leader, he actually got into it with the head director.
Region director?
Region director, yeah. Yeah, because even my team leader, I know it just wasn't just my team leader, but several of the team leaders I definitely felt like they were very underappreciated by staff. And some of the Corps members, but definitely, like, I don't think staff was treating them very well.
Yeah, I mean, they talked about that during round 4. I mean, and we'll get to Louisiana in a bit, but yeah, I remember during round 4, like, one of the team leaders was talking about how it's like, we don't know what to tell our teams anymore, because we keep getting, whether we're getting no information, we keep getting conflicting information. Like, we don't know what to tell our teams, we don't know what to do for our teams. They're tired, we're tired, like, we're at the end of our rope. Like, we need direction, we need, like, clear information, and we're just not getting it. And yeah.
Well, I guess we could just to wrap up, like, basically the whole year before the Great Deployment. Did I say that word right?
The Great Deployment.
The Great Deployment. But yeah, the war begins. So yeah, basically, another big issue was the people who were selected for Atlantic Region. We were just talking about like, a lot of people, actually, they were saying that was probably one of the lowest census ever. Like
the lowest number of people that came in?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
Well,
I mean,
no,
the year
not the
after us was even smaller.
Well, not the low, like, I'm talking like people that left, like, that just quit. Not even like let go, like they quit.
Okay, like the highest number of people that just straight up left.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing. We lost a lot of people in our Corps. Like, I was expecting, like, when I came into this program, I was expecting to be with a lot of people who were, like, ready to go and were, like, committed to doing this, and they knew what they were getting into, and, like, it would take a lot for someone to leave, or to be kicked out, or something like that. I figured there would be fewer people that would be doing things that would need to have them be kicked out for. But yeah, we were actually looking through. She has her yearbook with her, and we actually counted the number of people in our graduating class, and it was 110 people. and we started the year with 15 teams, which, have about, 11, maybe 12 people in each team, plus a team leader. So it's like, going from, because there were people kicked out during training, but still not that many. And there were like 5 people that came in as team leaders, but then were promoted to, that came in as core members, but then were promoted to team leader or a service team leader. Yeah. But that, that's only 5 people. And then, the few people that were kicked out during training, it's like, we had to have started off the year with, 150 to 160 people, and we dropped to 110. At the end of the year, every team had like 5 or 6 people on it. There were some teams, like your team, they were talking about just dissolving your team because there were so few people on it.
Oh yeah, I remember, and I remember my team leader saying, if you dissolve our team, I'm literally quitting, because they were trying to offer him to be like a STL, and he was like, fuck that shit. I came here to be a team leader. I didn't come here to like sit in the office all day on my ass. So thank God that our team didn't get dissolved, because
you got down to like 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, we did. Actually, no, when we went to New York, it was just me, two of the boys, and literally my team leader. That was it. But that's when they added, and another thing they did in AmeriCorps was like, if there was problematic core members, we got 2 of the most problematic core members on our team.
I'd argue 3.
Oh crap! This is going public. I hope they don't see it.
Okay, we're being kind of petty right now.
Okay.
We are.
Okay, let me rephrase that. So basically, if there are core members who are having issues with their original team, they will be moved to another team. So since my team, we had team members that left, they were replaced with other team members who had issues with the other teams. Basically.
Yeah, that was the other thing that I was surprised by when we did this, because I was thinking, it's like, okay, you go into this program and what they do at the beginning is they put everybody into pods, which is sort of the temporary team. They put you in a group with a bunch of other people, and then you get a pod leader who will eventually, they're going to be a team leader, but for now they're just a pod leader. And it's sort of like a test run, a dry run. The team leader will kind of look at everybody, sort of make judges of personality, see who works well together, and just sort of make recommendations. And then you stay with your pod for, I think we were with ours for maybe 10 days.
Yeah, about over a week.
Yeah, a little over a week. And then they put us into our permanent teams. And then I was thinking when I went in, it's like, okay, you go in your team, and like that is your team, and if there are disagreements or personality issues, you're supposed to be mature, you're supposed to be adults, and like figure it out amongst yourselves. Obviously it's not going to be easy all the time, but these are the people that you're going to be working with, and you need to do something about it. And also it's like, you're going to be with this team, these are the people that you're going to be working with and eating with and sleeping with and relaxing with through the course of the year. These people are basically going to be your family unit. That was the impression that I was going to get. And it's like, you would only be like moved to another team in very, very specific circumstances. Like you would otherwise, they wanted to keep people where they were, and like they would only move you unless it was absolutely necessary. They shuffled us around like playing cards. Like, I swear there were some people that were on a different team every round. And part of that was Atlantic Region does these things called composite teams, where you can volunteer. Because if you just stay with your team, you do whatever projects get assigned to your team. But these composite teams will do special projects that you have to actually volunteer for. You have to submit an application for it, basically. Mm-hmm. And then they pick you. So you're with a bunch of people from a whole bunch of other teams, and then you go to the specific project away from your regular team. Yeah, so, part of it was people would volunteer to go on these composite teams. And one of the composite teams was actually a firefighting unit. One of the things you can do, again, I'm not quite sure how it works at other regions, but for Atlantic Region, you can volunteer to do this special training regiment to be a wildland firefighter. So you go to this special training. You have to undergo like a preliminary test. You have to like walk however many miles or something with a weighted backpack. You go to this special training camp to be a firefighter, basically. And then once you've passed that training, you can get pulled, from your team for a round to serve in the Phoenix unit, the firefighting unit. So there were some people that did that. I had a firefighter on my team. Two at first, but then one became an STL. So yeah, I had a firefighter on my team. He was gone for 2 rounds, doing wildland firefighting, and then various other people would do composite teams. But yeah, that was one thing about AmeriCorps that disappointed me, I guess, because it just didn't feel very consistent. My team changed so much from round to round.
I think California, they switch teams every round.
What?
Yeah, I think they do that in California. I'll edit this out if it's wrong, but I think, yeah, again, like regions are different, but they actually change it every round in California, I think.
I don't see how that would necessarily be a good thing, because I thought AmeriCorps was like, you're kind of like building,
right?
Like building something, like building relationships and like fostering. I mean, I can see if it's a bad team, like you'd want to like change it up so that they get better experience. But if it's a good team that works well together, why would you want to mess that up?
Right. Well, I'll edit that out if that's wrong. But anyway.
Okay. Yeah. Like we said, we don't know everything about how all the other regions do things. So, yeah.
There's a lot of mosquitoes out here.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't gotten bit. That was from yesterday.
Yeah, I saw a big one. Well, you're about to get one on that leg. But I've gotten a few bites. But basically, yeah. Let's talk about the Louisiana thing. Because I don't want to be out here getting bit. But okay, Louisiana, very emotional experience.
Yeah. So what happened was,
welcome to the club. Welcome to hell. Like that's okay, so I know that my team, we were like literally one of the like last teams to be deployed, and it was like your team and other teams got to go first.
Okay, how it worked was the summer of 2016, the Baton Rouge area of Louisiana experienced heavy rains and incredible flooding, and there was a lot of damage. And naturally, since this is a disaster issue, AmeriCorps was there to help. And Southern Region went there first, since, Louisiana is in their area. But there was a lot of damage, and there was a lot to do, and so basically Atlantic Region was asked to help. So eventually it was announced that 10 teams, and at that point we only had 13 teams. We lost 2 of our teams because of how many people left over the course of the year. But yeah, so it's like 10 teams were going to get sent down to Louisiana from Baltimore. To help do disaster relief for flooding. And information kept changing, and we're like, okay, well, how long are we going to be down there? And they told us at the beginning, you are not going to be kept down there longer than 30 days because of how physically and mentally taxing, this is going to be. You will not be in that area for longer than 30 days at a stretch.
We were there longer.
We were there for 2 months.
And they also offered some of us to stay even longer than that.
Yeah. They asked people, voluntarily to extend their term of service to keep doing this.
And I just want to mention, it's not that we didn't like put our heart, soul, and
it's
body
not that we
into this
didn't
work.
want to help.
Like, it was definitely one of the most rewarding experiences of my life, because, there were families who were crying because they lost everything. But the problem is, like, there comes a point where everyone has a breaking point. We were working in, like, 90 to 100-degree weather in Tyvek suits and our uniforms already. The conditions...
we were basically doing, like... The main thing we were doing was mucking and gutting houses, basically going in, ripping up floorboards, drywall, even ceilings, basically anything that had been damaged by water and that was moldy, to protect ourselves from the dust and the mold, because black mold is not good for you. We had to wear Tyvek suits, this plastic stuff that keeps stuff out but also keeps stuff in.
There were also when they were doing like some orientation, they were talking about the asbestos. I think
we had to. Well, they had to when people would call the hotline to ask for help, they had to say whether or not there was asbestos in their
Because
in
they
their
were
house.
built in a certain time period.
Yeah, so we had to be aware of that, but I don't think they like let us in to any of the houses that did. I don't know. But yeah, so we had to wear full Tyvek suits. We had to wear respirator masks, these plastic things that, fit over your face, that have these like big pink things that you breathe through. We had to wear hard hats, boots, like rubber boots, and then 2 layers of gloves, like, nitrile gloves, and then like bigger, like fabric gloves. So, you can grip splintery boards and whatnot. But, it's a lot of layers. Heat does not escape. Oh, and we wear goggles too to protect our eyes. So yeah, the heat was just incredible. I remember the first day we went out to do this. The first house that my team did ended up being one of the worst houses that we worked on. Like it really should have just been torn down, but we can't make that call.
I worked in some pretty weird,
There were a lot of houses, like especially later on in the round when it's getting to be months after the flooding and the mold and the muck has been sitting there for that long. Like it's hard to deal with. But I remember the first house we did, like we would go in there, and I don't handle heat well. I never really have. But I was trying my best, but it was like we'd go in there, it was so hot, my goggles would fog over, from sweat and humidity. And I really was not doing well. Like we stopped for like a lunch break or something, like we all just went out and, unzipped our Tyveks and like kicked off our boots and like we were all just laying there. And I remember just like we were sitting under this tree for shade and just looking up and I was like, I can't do this for a month. Like this, my God. Luckily though, I was able to, I was taught how to do decon, basically decontamination. When someone comes out of a house, they've been exposed to the dust and the debris and the mold and everything. And so basically what the decon person does is they go and they peel off the mask, they peel off the gloves, they take off your helmet, and they unzip everything, and they give you water, they give you whatever you need, so that when you come out to take a break, because they're like, okay, if you need to pause, take a break, you go in there, you work for a little bit, like, we don't want anybody collapsing or experiencing, like, heat stroke or anything. Like, if you need a break, take a break. So I was able to do that for the afternoon, so I was still being useful. But yeah, after that, my team decided, it's like, we're not wearing our pants under our Tyvek suits, because we were wearing our regular uniform with the long pants, and so we basically were like, yeah, we're just wearing shorts or we're wearing underwear.
Oh, really? You all got away with that?
Yeah, I mean, they found out that people were doing this, and they're like, you have to wear pants underneath your Tyvek to protect you from nails, and I'm just thinking to myself, these nails go through our boots. Like, an extra layer of pants underneath, a thin Tyvek suit ain't gonna do anything.
On a nail.
Oh yeah. I mean, Gabby stepped on a nail.
She did?
Yeah.
Oh.
I stepped on one, but it only went through like the side of my boot. But it's like, okay, if the nails are going through our boots, like, yeah, like I don't see how an extra layer of, of thin fabric. Because this isn't even like real khaki. It's like thin stuff. Like
you know what else? Actually, yeah, some of the houses, and I know it wasn't just my team, there were some houses that were hoarding houses. I know one team found a dead cat in a refrigerator.
Oh my God.
I know my team, one of the families, it was like they had like a trailer house and then like a regular house. But there was no bathroom around, like conveniently around or whatever. And one day, like me and some of the boys had to go use the restroom. So we go in there, and the lady and the guy, like, they're old people, but they were watching a porno when they opened the door. They were still watching the porno, and we were just like, and then they ran across and like shut it off, like as if nothing happened. It's like, dude, we saw that, like, that's not going away, like, from our memory.
You never told me about this.
Wait, I'm pretty sure I did.
No?
That was a big thing. Like, we were laughing about that for days. And it didn't just stop there. Someone was, like, they had, like, curse words written in a marker on the walls. Like, it was just, like, I mean, nice to help and all, but...
Yeah, I mean, these things are just kind of like what you experience in AmeriCorps. Like, these aren't problems. These aren't like big
Just
things.
funny side
it's just
stories,
like these are
but
just
yeah.
things that happened. Like we're
Yeah.
not blaming AmeriCorps for this at all. Like
yeah.
obviously it's not their fault that you walked in on somebody watching a porno.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Louisiana was very hard. You know, aside from the physical labor, which is very, very draining, you know, we also, some of the teams would do call center work. You sit in this room and you receive calls from people who are asking for assistance, or you call people who are already like in the system to ask, you know, okay, have people come to you already? Like, have you received help? Do you still need help? What do you still need? You know, just calling and checking up on people. And this is the thing about Louisiana. I didn't really talk much about like what happened to me, like mental health wise. Like when I joined AmeriCorps, like her, I had some previous mental health issues. I've been struggling with depression since I was a teenager. And when I signed up for AmeriCorps and was deployed to AmeriCorps, I was in a pretty good place. Like, I'd been out of counseling for probably like 7 months at that point, and at that point, I'd only been seeing my therapist like once a month. So like, I was at a decent point. You know, I was feeling a lot better. And I one of the reasons I joined AmeriCorps was to, you know, do something with myself, to serve, because, you know, they talk about volunteer work is supposed to be really good for people who struggle with mental health problems, because you're focusing on someone other than yourself. And I've always been, you know, I've always wanted to do things for other people, and so it's like this program sounds like a great fit. Over the course of the year, there were a lot of things that I encountered. I had a semi-romantic relationship with one of my teammates that didn't go real well, and it really sucked. Yeah, they talk about team cest. I mean, at the beginning they warned us. It's like, you know, team cest is probably not a good idea, but it's like there's...
Doesn't apply to me because I'm from Kentucky. I'm just joking.
But it's like, they know it's gonna happen, but they still are like, yeah, it's probably not the best idea. Yeah, as far as like dating and relationships in AmeriCorps, the only rule is that a Corps member and a team leader cannot be a thing, because that's like a fraternization issue and like a power dynamic issue.
Yeah.
But Corps members can date Corps members. There were lots of AmeriCouples. There was lots of drama.
Lots of drama.
Some of the team leaders dated at a couple points, but yeah, so I had this thing with one of the guys on my team, and yeah, that didn't go real well. And I was very emotional because of that, and it affected my... It affected me a lot. It took me by surprise, like how much it affected me. And obviously, again, this is just a thing that happened. Like, that's not AmeriCorps' fault. I'm just saying that I experienced this, and it's like, at first I thought I was going to be okay. Like, I was going to work through it. But then it's like other things happened just from disorganization, people telling us we're going to do one thing and then we end up doing another. Like my second round, one of the things that I did my second round is we went to New York City. And what we're supposed to do was we were going to teach kids, like school-aged kids, about recycling and sustainability and stuff. Because, you know, New York, you know, huge population, a lot of waste production. So, you know, teaching kids about this sort of thing and being mindful about where they put things, teaching them about how to recycle, you know, that's an important thing. The New York City Department of Education or whatever had never worked with an AmeriCorps team before, so they were a little not quite sure what to do with us or what we could do. But originally the project was, you know, we were going to be going, there was a series of schools that were going to be a part of this program where we would come in and we would teach the kids about recycling. We toured a recycling plant, we did all sorts of, training and seminars, and like we learned all this information to pass on to the kids. And because there's multiple schools, like 9 schools, my team ended up splitting up. It was just like, 2 or 3 people going to each school. But some of the schools we got to, they're like, yeah, we'd actually kind of like it if you could like clean out this one closet or like this one storeroom instead. Like we kind of need this done. And were like, okay. And so we would do that. And like, yeah, I was with this one other person on my team. We were part of a two-person group. And like, we went to this school, and they're like, yeah, we have this like storeroom in the library that we'd like you to organize. It's probably going to take you like all 4 days you're here. So yeah, me and my teammate got that done, and we got another room done in like a day and a half, instead of just the one in 4 days. So then they were like struggling to find us things to do. That was something that happened to us a lot. Like, our sponsors like ran out of things for us to do.
Yeah.
And that was frustrating, because it's like, I want to help. I want to do something. Like, I feel like I'm not being used, or like I'm getting hours for just sitting around doing nothing. And like, that kind of ate at me after a while. But I just remember, yeah, some of these schools in New York, they didn't do this recycling project. And so for the 3 weeks that we were there, supposed to be doing this thing, I was never in a classroom to teach anybody. I was literally cleaning closets for 3 weeks after spending a week doing these seminars and everything, getting to... The first time I see the Statue of Liberty is from a freaking recycling plant. Like, I never expected that to happen. But yeah, so it's like, I was so excited. It's like, oh, this is a really important thing that we should be doing. And some of my teammates got to do it. Some of my teammates were able to, make posters and like make signs and like work with the kids and explain, why is my nose so itchy? And explain like how these things worked. And I was cleaning closets and making phone calls to parents for conferences and sitting around. I was sitting around a lot during that project, and I just felt really, I don't know, like, yeah. And like, I remember after that project, like, I didn't want to recycle anymore. Like, there was this weird change in my attitude. Like, okay, the way I was raised, like, my mom is very big on like where things come from and where things go, and like reusing everything and like not wasting things. And like, she's, very bothered by like consumeristic culture and stuff. Like, all my clothes growing up were from thrift stores, and I didn't have a problem with it. If it's perfectly good, why not reuse it? And, I was very conscious, raised to be very conscious of recycling and like making use of the things that you have. And after that, I was the type of person that would carry like an empty plastic bottle around with me until I found like an actual recycling bin, instead of just like tossing it somewhere. Like, I was that kind of person. And after this project, after getting to go to this city and then constantly being separated from my team because our team split off into all these tiny groups. So we didn't, and the housing we're at didn't really have the best like a communal area. Like, there wasn't really a good like area where we could all meet and do things. I mean, the kitchen sort of worked, but it was still really cramped. So it's like, our team didn't do a lot of bonding during the second round, which yeah, but I remember after that, I was just like, I didn't want to recycle anymore. It like, yeah, it was, I hated New York after a while, honestly, because I was dealing with my feelings towards this person on my team, and he ended up, well, it was the firefighter. I'll just, disclose that there. So he was gone during second round and eventually third round too. So he wasn't on the team, and it's like, even though he wasn't there, I was still dealing with a lot of just emotions. And it's weird because when you deal with depression, it's like you don't feel anything. Like, you never, like, there's no feelings at all. Like, you feel just empty or heavy or just blank.
And also, this was your first heartbreak, technically, right?
Yeah, this was my first love. And so I was like, I did not know what to do. My team leader was nice. Like, he actually let me have a day off at one point because I was just having a mental breakdown. And like, he let me have a day off of work, just like as a mental health day. And like, he actually talked with me one-on-one and like gave me some advice. And that was nice of him. And I remember that. But I just remember New York feeling like, I remember the day I arrived in New York, like I actually went off by myself to just cry for a while.
Oh, I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, like I was just really, yeah. So that didn't start my year off real great. But there were other things that happened, because it's like I had two really good friends on my team that actually were there for me, and like they helped me a lot. Like they knew that I was, you know, heartbroken and everything, and like these two people I was really close to, and like they were supportive. Like they were with me, and you know, they saw me cry and like offered me advice of their own, and like they were like I ended up getting close to these two people. And that was really nice and really helpful. And I'm like, okay, well, as long as I have like these two people with me, you know, on my team, like, and eventually when I talk to this person, you know, this guy, you know, at the end of this round, like hopefully I'll have everything figured out, and then I'll have these two people with me to lean on. You know, I'll be able to focus on my relationship with them instead of my relationship with this other person. Well, for third round, both of them went on a composite team. And then over the course of the year, I'd become really good friends with you. Mm-hmm. Like we'd become really close because, well, we both had our heartache issues and we bonded over that. Mm-hmm. And so, but then you went on a project, and the thing was the composite project that my two teammates went on was on the Appalachian Trail. You know, not exactly a good place to get a signal. So it's like really hard to talk to them. You know, even though, because in theory it's like, well, you just, you know, text them or whatever when you feel bad. It's like, it's hard to get a hold of them.
Right. And I was in upstate New York when.
And you also had like bad service too.
Yeah, because we were upstate New York, like we were in like the countryside like half the time.
Yeah, so I could hardly talk to you either.
Yeah.
So it's like the three people that, you know, I would lean on that I had actually formed relationships with over the course of the year, I didn't have.
And again, that goes back to the counseling problem, which
I
don't understand why AmeriCorps only well, I mean, at least Atlantic Region only had two, but again.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and here's the thing. Like at that point, I knew that I was like really starting to struggle with mental health. At first, I thought it was just, I'm just heartbroken. Like this is just a personal thing. But then it was, you know, getting frustrated with the projects, because like our first project too, we ended up not doing what we were initially assigned at all, and they were basically just looking for things for us to do because our first project fell through. And there were some days, like during the first round, my team leader was actually like a little freaked out at one point, because like, yeah, you're getting like 6-7 hours a day for work, like if, you know, we need to get more hours in the next round, otherwise like you guys are not on track to graduate, because we're not getting enough work hours, because they just didn't have work for us. So that was frustrating. And then the second round, we ended up doing that. And then third round was okay. We had the same project the whole round, and then we stayed in Baltimore. That was another thing. Originally, we were going to have a split round. We were going to be in Baltimore for a few weeks, and then we're going to go up to Vermont. And then the Vermont project fell through, and so I was in Baltimore for 8 weeks. And I'm just like, I was really hoping to get out of here and like get away from like memories and like thoughts and like get a new experience, like get, you know, do something else. And like I didn't feel trapped exactly, but it's just like, oh crap. Yeah, so it's like the three people that I normally would lean on the best were not there, and I was, you know, I started to realize, I actually learned the term compassion fatigue. I don't even remember how, but it was during round 3 that I realized that I was experiencing compassion fatigue. You know, wanting to help, but then like it eventually, you know, it wears on you. Like it is emotionally draining after a while, even if you want to help somebody. Yeah, so I was experiencing compassion fatigue, and just feeling numb and feeling like I didn't care anymore, and mad at myself for not caring, and like it kept spiraling out of control. And during third round, I had gotten to a period where I was sort of over the guy, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna focus on myself this round. I'm gonna do things for myself this round. So I started working out more seriously, because it's like I want to work, I want to improve my body, I want to run better. That was my main thing. It's like I want to run better. And like I wanted to, you know, read, and like I started doing all these different things, but I was still struggling with my mental health. And I thought about going to a counselor, because that was one of the things. It's like I was worried Like, before I was deployed, I actually kind of had a little breakdown with my mom, because I was worried. It's like, what if what if this goes wrong? Like, what if I have a relapse, or what if something happens? I was worried about that, but it's like, okay, there are counselors available to us. That made me feel better. It's like, okay, if I do have a problem, like, I have somebody that I can go to. And I heard things, like, I mean, she already talked about it, but, like, I heard the stuff that she talked about. Two of my teammates that I know of, they went to her. Well, technically there were two counselors, but it's like one of them we never saw. It's like this one woman.
I think she was new.
She was new, but still, and it's like, in theory, I could have emailed her, because this woman who was always there, it's like she was the one that would go to, she was the one that would send people to the doctor. And it's like, I guess if I had to see one, I would have preferred the other one, though I wasn't hearing super great things about her either. But after what you told me about your experience with the drugs, about, one of my other teammates who had, even worse mental health struggles than I do, she'd gone to this counselor, she'd been put on drugs, she was not having a good time. One of my teammates was trans, actually, and started his transition during AmeriCorps, and like, he was having a hard time getting a hold of her. That was the thing, she was remarkably hard to get a hold of. As someone who was always volunteering to help, you couldn't get a hold of her. Because I remember she was supposed to like call everybody like before we were deployed to like do just like a check-in or something.
And she got overwhelmed a lot. I actually got into a little argument with her, but she didn't realize that I lost a best friend to suicide round one. But again, I'm not blaming her. I'm blaming just again, the organization of Atlantic Region was just so poorly executed. And if you have mental health issues coming into AmeriCorps, God forbid, like, hopefully not.
Hopefully it's better at the other locations.
Yeah, because and they kind of like treat it as like, oh, like, we'll just throw you these drugs and everything will be better. So, but that's not how mental health works. You can't just solely rely on drugs. You need a professional to talk to. My team leader was the only person close enough to a professional that I could talk to when my best friend committed suicide, and he wasn't even supposed to be in that position. So it was just a huge strain, like, again, like, on the Corps members, the team leaders, and just everyone in the whole, like, just...
Yeah, and so it's like, I was hearing all these things, and it's like, I know I need to talk to somebody, but I'm like afraid they're gonna put me on drugs. Like, I know I don't need, because I was already on a prescription medication, like when I went into AmeriCorps, but I was like afraid they were gonna put me on more drugs or different drugs. And it's like, I don't think I need more different drugs. I think I just need to talk. But like, I'm afraid this is what's gonna happen, and I don't want that to happen. And then the thing that made me swear off seeing the counselor, I was talking to somebody during third round, and we were discussing mental health issues, weirdly enough, and I was talking about possibly seeing the counselor, and she said that she'd gone to the counselor and had talked about her past, because she'd had quite a harrowing experience, like, throughout her life, and she had some very good reasons for her mental health problems, and so she'd gone to the counselor and had shared some of the things that she'd gone through in her life. And the thing is, when you talk to a professional, like a therapist, like I've been in therapy twice now, confidentiality is everything. The therapist is not supposed to share whatever you tell them with a third party unless you give permission, or it's like a matter of your life and safety. In which case they have to like talk to the authorities, like call 911 or something. And this girl overheard the counselor talking about some of her personal issues, personal baggage, with someone who really wasn't someone who needed to know. She overheard this person basically betraying her confidentiality. This was not, like a police officer or another medical professional or even her team leader. This was just somebody else, and she was just talking about like her personal stuff. And as soon as she told me that, I was like, ain't no way in hell I'm going to this woman. I don't trust them. And at least I know I don't trust this woman but I know she and the other counselor are close, and like I'm already like not sure about any of this, so it's like I know I need help, but the help that's there I don't trust, and so I decided to try and deal with the stuff on my own, and that didn't work out so well. The compassion fatigue and the numbness and the depression and eventually anxiety. I realized in AmeriCorps that I had an anxiety issue as well as depression. I would have, I remembered when I would exercise sometimes that my throat would close up. And there were other times, like during AmeriCorps, where my throat would close up and it was hard to breathe. And I started realizing that they were panic attacks. And I started having these more and more because I just felt like I wasn't doing enough, or I felt like, everything is disorganized and they don't treat us with respect, they talk down to us, and or just personal things. And then going to Louisiana, at first it was great because okay, we're going to a disaster zone. We're definitely doing good work here. We're definitely going to be doing something, and I'm going to feel so much better working on this instead of just sitting in a room, calling parents instead of doing my project, or sitting around, or picking up sticks. I'm doing something. Instead of just all these periods throughout the course where it's I'm getting hours for this. I'm literally doing nothing right now, and I'm still getting hours for this. It's okay, we're doing disaster relief. This is going to be good. And the physical exhaustion accompanied with some other personal revelations between me and the guy. There's just some personal drama that kind of boiled up again, shortly before we were deployed for Louisiana. So that put me in a really bad frame of mind. And I tried, so help me, I tried to just put that aside and try to work. I tried so hard to just work because I didn't have anything else at that point. But the fact that we were doing disaster relief, which is very taxing, they, you see things, when you go, I remember we were driving through the suburbs of Baton Rouge, and there's just piles of belongings along the streets, furniture, clothing, toys, everything,
keepsakes,
everything these people had, and you see these piles of it all along the streets in front of these houses that are ruined now because of the water. And I didn't think it bothered me at the time, but maybe it did. Seeing that, and then the fact that we were down there for 2 months. First they say, you're only going to be down there for 30 days because of how hard this is, and then they're okay, we're bringing down all the other teams now, because at first they sent down the 10 first teams, and then they decided to bring everyone down. Then they brought everyone down, the entirety of Atlantic region was deployed to Louisiana, which a lot of people didn't think was a very good idea, because a lot of the people that were deployed were initially kept back due to, various reasons, but one of them was, disciplinary issues. Mm-hmm. And then there were some people that volunteered to stay behind, because they told us, it's this is going to be hard, and, we're not going to, if you don't think you can handle this, if you genuinely don't think you can handle this, talk to your team leader right now, we'll give you an alternative assignment. You'll stay in Baltimore, you'll do this other thing. And they're also talking about, if someone went to Louisiana and ended up breaking down, obviously they would prefer to keep them down there. But it's if you broke down in Louisiana, there was a chance that you could get sent back to Baltimore to do other work, if you just couldn't handle it anymore. But they sent everyone down, including the non-deployables, as they were termed. And, there were some people, there was one person I know that chose, that opted to stay behind and not do this project because he was actually from the South, and he'd experienced flooding as a child, and he still had issues from it. And so when he was basically forced to come down, he was in the field for maybe 3 days, but eventually he had to leave and go work in the kitchen instead, because he was having panic attacks, because it reminded him too much of his own personal experience. And I guess he kind of had a feeling something like that would happen, and that's why he chose not to do this.
Yeah, and I had a teammate that is literally from Louisiana, and he's experienced all those floodings and stuff. I just don't understand how they couldn't what's the term? They couldn't cater to the people who actually needed certain accommodations.
Yeah, because it's for these people, their choices were basically work in the field where you're triggered, or work in the kitchen where you work 12 hours a day.
And the schedule there, you would sometimes work at night, late at night.
Yeah,
because,
12. It's probably even more than 12 in some cases, because they literally were responsible for
the kitchen. Yeah.
Yeah, because they were literally responsible for all the meals.
Yeah.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So they had very, very long work days. So it's take your pick. Either be mentally exhausted or physically exhausted. Choose your poison.
Yeah.
And it's again, we knew this was hard work going in. And it's not that we didn't want to do it. It's not that we weren't willing to help. It's not that this wasn't what we signed up for. We knew this was something that we might end up doing. Disaster relief is one of the functions of NCCC. We're not upset that we did disaster relief work. This was the largest single deployment of AmeriCorps since Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah.
This was huge.
Yeah. We actually worked with, I think they were from Vinton.
Well, yeah, it was us in Southern Region, the North Central Region came down, and then they were talking about Pacific Region sending people over too after we'd left.
Yeah, and we got the honor of working with because some of those teams were fantastic to work with. It's just I just remember my team leader saying that there was a rumor going around that Atlantic Region was the worst region. It was pathetic down there, and that leads to that story.
Yeah. So
Miss Joan of Arc over here. So
yeah, okay. So during Louisiana, I was done. I was having regular panic attacks at work. There were a couple of instances where there was one instance at least where I had to leave work early because I had a panic attack. But yeah, there were times I was extremely emotionally volatile, and I was just done. I was waiting for the program to be over. I was so mentally drained, and I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know who to talk to, and I didn't know who to turn to. But before I get into it, this one other thing I want to say about this counselor. There was one day I had a panic attack. We were at the call center that day, and I was just listening to people, and I'm just I can't deal with this anymore. Because when I went to the call center and people are telling me about their problems and how much they'd lost and how much trouble they're in right now because their home is destroyed, they lost everything, I was basically sitting on the phone and I did not give a flying fuck. And that bothered me. Because it's these are people that have lost it all, and I'm supposed to be sitting here listening to them and trying to help them. But basically my mindset at that point was, this information is not on my little check sheet. When we call, we're supposed to fill out all the information, the address and the phone number and what parts of the house need working on. It's this information is superfluous, and there's no spot on here to talk about how your dog died and how your this or that happened. So yeah, I felt like an absolute sociopath because I'm actually doing something important and I'm talking to people who've experienced really bad stuff in their life, and I don't care. I really don't. And so yeah, I ended up having a panic attack, and my team drove me home. My assistant team leader and then one of my teammates brought me back to base basically. I had to leave work early. And so because I left work early due to a mental health issue, my team leader basically said, okay, yeah, you're going to talk to this counselor. And I was okay. I don't really want to talk to her, but I can see the reasoning why. Obviously I left work, and she happened to be down in Louisiana at that time. Because we were so far from our campus, visits from the higher ups were not common. But this counselor happened to be with us at that time to visit us because, well, a lot of people were experiencing mental health issues because we'd been in Louisiana at that point for a month and a half. And we were running out of supplies. We were constantly having to fight and ask for supplies. we needed new uniforms. A lot of people's uniforms had gotten destroyed over the course of the year, or uniforms were missing. Like, people would steal other people's uniforms if they didn't have it. And we couldn't do laundry. Like, that was the thing. Like, we were doing, hard labor in Tyvek suits, sweating a lot. We're exposed to dust and black mold. We want to wash our clothes. And they gave us a budget. They arranged with this laundry service to come in to where we were staying. We'd put all our stuff in bags and we'd give it. And we went through what they said was like a month's allowance in about a week, just because everybody wanted their clothes washed and needed their clothes washed. And after that, it's like, where we're stationed is kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like, we were, both instances, my team at least ended up staying in 2 different locations over the course of that round. And both places were, middle of nowhere, like small towns. And so it's like hard to find places and arrange, because eventually they're like, okay, you have to do your own laundry, basically. And so it's like, okay, we have to arrange to go find a laundromat and do it ourselves. And eventually they came up with this arrangement where it's like, okay, they have this service, but they'll only wash uniform pieces. Your personal laundry you have to do yourself. So we're like, okay, well, at least they're doing laundry. But yeah, doing laundry was so hard. And it's like, that's something that we kind of need. And so, and people were wearing dress uniforms out into the field because they just didn't have any other clothes. If they were missing pieces, they were really weird. Like, we couldn't get uniforms. Like, even at the beginning of the year, do you remember that whole fiasco? Like, people weren't getting their uniforms right away, and almost everybody was missing something.
Well, all I remember about the year is that one of my teammates ripped his pants 3 times, in the year, and our unit leader always had to get him new pants. So
yeah, well,
the uniform policy is pretty strict.
Yeah, it's, you have the clothes, they have to be worn a certain way, and they're very picky about that. And but yeah, even at the beginning of the year, it was a pain to just get our uniforms and get proper uniforms, because I remember I had to submit everybody had to submit a list of things that they were missing. They were given some of their uniform, but not all of their uniform. And so we had to write lists of the things that we still needed. And we ended up submitting this over and over again. It's like, okay, we need you guys to make another list. Okay, we need you to say this thing again. And it's like, we'd get a few pieces here and there, a few pieces. I didn't have a belt for the longest time. It's like, I'm standing there, at our morning assembly, and I'm mostly in uniform, but then my team leader comes and is like, you're not wearing your belt? I'm like, I don't have a belt. And he's like, okay. And because they basically had to keep track of who wasn't in proper uniform because they had no choice, versus people who were not in proper uniform because they just weren't. So yeah, it was hard getting pieces of uniform. Okay, this hat, I forgot that I was supposed to have this hat because I didn't at the beginning. And then it got to be 3rd round when we were outside a lot, and it was hot. I was having sun beating down on my head, and my team leader's like, "Well, just wear your hat." And I'm like, "My hat? Oh yeah, I'm supposed to have a hat." And I realized that that was one of the things I just never ended up getting, because despite submitting this list over and over again, I just didn't get all the things I was supposed to. I was like, at that point, I just want my belts. Can I just have a belt? It's not that hard. So yeah, I didn't get my hat until midway through the year. And so yeah, we were having a lot of problems with people were not in proper uniform during Louisiana, but that was because they don't have regular pants, because either they're filthy or destroyed, so they're wearing their dress pants, or their uniform pieces are missing because either other Corps members or other regions even probably were stealing stuff.
Let's talk about that time that
I never finished. I was going on a tangent about the counselor.
This was actually a pretty big gas deal, because this lady over here almost got kicked out because of what she did. Treason. But yeah, so, and actually, so my team, most of the teams in Atlantic region were, like she said, first we went to this one town, and then our team, for some reason, got shipped off to this Baptist church campus away from the other teams, our sister teams. So her team ended up going to this military base with a whole bunch of other corps, and my team ended up being in this a town called Zachary in this Baptist church campus with other Corps teams. So when this event happened, the only reason why we found out about it was because of Facebook, and also our team, everyone's team leaders, got the memo like, yo, something really uncool is happening for AmeriCorps at least. And she could fill you in on that because I was in Zachary when this happened. But I mean, eventually we did go to that meeting where everybody, the whole Atlantic region was there to talk about what you posted on Facebook.
Yeah, so basically I was extremely frustrated. Just to sum up that other tangent, my team leader said, okay, you're going to meet with this counselor. And I was like, yeah, okay, fine. I was given a time and location to meet with this person. They never showed up. There was another team leader that went and mentioned to her that I was waiting for her. She never showed up. That night, she came around to all of our rooms and reminded us that there was inspection in the morning. And she knocked on the door, and me and everyone else in the room was already asleep. But I answered it, and she saw me, and she just reminded us oh hey, there's inspection in the morning. Make sure everything is cleaned up and put away. And then she just left. She didn't say anything to me. She knew who I was. And yeah, the next morning, after our morning assembly, I sort of stood near her and waited to see if she'd see me. She didn't. She walked away. So it's she actually saw me. My team leader had arranged for her to see me. She didn't. She actually did physically see me unintentionally later. She didn't say a word to me. She didn't even ask how I was or how I was feeling. And yeah, after that, I was just well, I guess we're not talking. And honestly, I'm fine with that because I've heard a lot of bad things about you. During Louisiana, one of my teammates that I was rooming with, she was having withdrawals because the medication that she'd been given after seeing this doctor were messing with her. She'd gone through withdrawals and she wasn't able to get her medicine on time. So she was talking to this woman. It's hey, when is the medicine coming? When am I going to be able to get the stuff? And the counselor's oh, it should be there, within the next few days, and it'll get sent over, or whatever. And then she's okay, but I'm freaking out right now. Do you have any idea of what I can do now? Anything that could help? Nothing. Radio silence. Never responded. Never sent an email back. And so I'm watching all these things happen. People are struggling with mental health problems, with physical issues. A lot of people started getting sick, over the course of the round, just because, our immune systems were probably failing from exhaustion, and after a point, probably poor nutrition, because we had different people running the kitchen at different times, and some of them didn't do the best job.
Yeah, where we were so my team was mostly vegetarian, and so we basically relied on our stipend to get the food we actually wanted to eat, because basically it was just mostly meat and
Yeah, no, it got to the point when we first got there, the meals were honestly pretty balanced and, well thought out and very well cooked. Honestly, delicious food. But then, yeah, after a while, it's they had an omnivore line and a vegan vegetarian line. And it's the omnivore line, it's you get meat and starch and then spinach with your choice of dressing. And it's okay, just because we eat meat doesn't mean we only eat meat. We need other things, in order to have a proper diet. And, we weren't, sometimes, also we had to pack our own lunches for when we went out in the field. And usually, they'd have, stuff, grab some bread, grab, some meat and cheese or some peanut butter, grab a piece of fruit, grab some, a couple of other little things. And it used to be okay, you can grab an apple or a banana or a pear, or they had a couple of options. And then it got to a point where it's sometimes they had apples. It went from having different choices of fruit. Sometimes there would be celery sticks, sometimes there'd be all these different things. And then, it got to a point where sometimes there's apples. So we weren't getting very balanced meals down there either. And so that was probably contributing to, a lot of people getting sick. A lot of people were, stressed, obviously. And, we weren't able to get the tools we needed, the supplies we needed, the uniforms we needed. And then...
What led to the point where you made that Facebook post?
We had a morning assembly. And as I said previously, visits from higher ups, from Atlantic region were rare. And we'd had a few of them over the course of the round. We they'd come down, but it seems like whenever they would come down, they just remind us of the stupid stuff, like, you guys need to be in proper uniform, and you need to be doing this and doing that. Just because you're away from Baltimore doesn't mean you shouldn't be following protocol and all this stuff. And overall just wasn't very supportive of the fact that we're basically doing hard labor
Busting our asses.
in hot weather and, in crappy conditions too. And there was this one morning where one of the unit leaders came down and she made a speech in front of everybody. First we had our morning assembly with everybody, and then she pulled Atlantic Region aside, because it wasn't just Atlantic Region at this location. There was other corps and sections of AmeriCorps there too. But she pulled Atlantic Region aside, and she wasn't happy with us. This is our last week of work, and we could be doing better, because we are not wearing proper uniform. We smell terrible. We smell like we haven't showered in a while. Our hair, we look like we could use a barber. Our hair looks very unkempt and very messy. And when you guys were saying your AmeriCorps pledge this morning, you really didn't sound like you meant it. You really didn't sound like you were all that into it, or proud to be here. You didn't really represent us real well. Those people from California over there, the California Conservation Corps, they look like they have their act together.
Why.
The people who just got there, hadn't been there, for, at this point, almost 2 months. She comes in and it's just like, you guys, this is your last week of work. You need to get your act together. You're graduating in a couple of weeks, and you need to, look like, proper AmeriCorps members, basically. And we're all just standing there listening to this. And I remember looking around at everybody, and everybody else was looking around at everybody like, are we hearing this right? Is she, what is she, what? We're all just standing there what? And
good thing my team wasn't there for that. I know my team would have went off.
Yeah, the team leaders were looking around dude, what? And during that work day, everybody was, that was all everybody was talking about. Everybody was so pissed at what this unit leader had said to us. It's okay, we have been working down here for weeks now, well, almost 2 months now. We are exhausted. We are, tired. We constantly, we try to talk to people about mental health issues and we can't get anything. We talk to people about disciplinary problems. There were people, you talked about one of your teammates got, booted out way later than he should have been. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of people that were like that. There were people that graduated that frankly shouldn't have graduated. And, there's all these other interpersonal problems between team leaders and corps members. The fact that we cannot get supplies, we're trying to do our work, but we don't have the tools to do it. The fact that we keep getting conflicting information or different information about what we're even supposed to be doing. And just the fact that, these people come down here, unit leaders, our region director, counselors and stuff, they come down here and they act like they don't actually care. Our unit leader honestly was pretty cool. He was a good unit leader overall, I'd say.
I basically kind of gave a toast to him at the end of the year. I was to the best unit leader out there.
Yeah, our unit leader was honestly pretty good. He was also new. A lot of the people that worked there have been at Atlantic Region for sometimes over a decade. But yeah, basically, this one unit leader coming in and saying all this stuff to us just pissed us off. And I was fuming because I was just this just keeps getting worse and worse. I'm so done right now. And
the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, and
she took to Facebook.
Yeah, here's what happened. A couple of days before, one of the members of our corps was so tired and so out of it because of everything that happened. When she showed up to the morning assembly, she'd accidentally put her shirt on backwards. And so we were all pointing at it, just yeah, hey, your shirt, you got to turn it around. And she's like, oh God. And she had to turn it around or whatever. So she was so exhausted that she'd accidentally worn her uniform wrong. And I remembered that because everybody was so mad. It's I'm not showering for the rest of Louisiana. I'm going to wear the same thing as this unit leader is going to have to, smell me for the rest of the week or whatever. And I'm going to comb my hair wrong. And I'm going to look like crap. Everyone is thinking of ways to stick it to this unit leader. like especially the people who were like in her unit were just like, oh my god, like we're gonna.
I think it was Moose. No, it was Buffalo.
Buffalo unit leader. Yeah. But yeah, and I just kind of blurted out, I'm gonna wear my shirt backwards. And I don't think anybody thought I was actually gonna do it. I don't think I thought I was actually gonna do it, but I did. That night, I wrote basically a draft of my feelings. And the next morning, I took a selfie with me wearing my shirt backwards, and I attached this whole essay I'd written, basically explaining how frustrated I was, all the things that happened, what this unit leader has said, and why I found it disrespectful. And I posted it to Facebook. And that morning, I went to the morning assembly wearing my shirt backwards. A couple of people stopped me and asked, you know your shirt's backwards, right? And I'm like, I know. And they're like, why?
And like Triple C's got their priorities backwards.
Yes, if the uniforms are their priorities, that's backwards. And so I'm going to wear their priorities backwards. And so, like, even my team leader, like, here's the thing. It wasn't just Corps members that were frustrated. The team leaders were really frustrated too. With how, bad communication and everything was. And so, like, I went to breakfast that morning, and, like, other people were coming up to me, like, Madeline, your shirt. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And I'm explaining to them, yeah, it's on purpose. And, like, my team leader walks up at that moment, and then he just kind of, like, puts his hands on the table and hangs his head for a minute. And then he just looks at me and is like, why? And I was like, because, like, like, AmeriCorps has its priorities backwards, so I'm wearing their priorities backwards. Like, it's a statement. And so, like, he walked away, and first he's like, okay, does anyone else know about this? And he's like, and I'm like, no, it's just me. Like, I'm the one that, I'm the only one doing this. Like, I didn't tell anyone else about that.
But didn't that post go viral and it got to corporate?
Eventually it did. And so, yeah, he's like looking, because this is still early in the morning. This is probably like maybe 20 minutes literally after I actually posted it. And so he's like, okay, like, well, if anyone asks, I don't know about this. And he walks away and he turns around again. He's like, it's pretty cool, but I don't know about this. And, like, he leaves.
Yeah. And, it would probably cost him his position.
Yeah. And so I went to the assembly. I wore my shirt backwards, and oh my God, when we said our AmeriCorps pledge that morning, no one could say it wasn't passionate. We were very loud, very clear, but oh my God, you could hear the edge in our voices. Like, I know I was like loudly, like, I did it almost as if I was badly reading a script and, like, badly and loudly reading it out, and everyone else was like very loud, but like you could hear like there was an anger, like the way we were saying it, like we were all saying it. And then the unit leader's like, oh, you sound much better this morning. And I was just looking at her, I was like, did you hear us? Like, are you deaf? But yeah, over the course of that day, more and more people saw my Facebook post, and they read my message. They were liking it, they were sharing it, they were posting it to our AmeriCorps Facebook page. Yeah, it got shared all over the place. I have never had a Facebook post liked and shared as much as that. And I wonder if I should have, like, brought it out here to, like, read what I said, but, like, I don't even know. You want to try and bring it up on your phone?
I mean, yeah, if I could find it on Facebook.
It'd be in October of 2016.
Yeah, but I do remember eventually.
Yeah, because, like, by lunchtime, literally everyone in the Corps had seen it, and there were people from, like, there were alumni and, like, people from other regions commenting, because people had asked me to make it public so that they could share it with more people, and so I did. And so, yeah, there were people from, like, other regions and people commenting. And so because this had, like, spread so fast, I posted it that morning, and by about noon, it's like the whole Corps knew about it, was talking about it, and, like, people, like, I remember my team, like, we were playing, like, me and this other team were working together at a house, and, like, they were playing Can You Hear the People Sing from Les Mis? Because we were all just like, can you hear the people singing the song of angry men? Like, we were, yeah, so, like, and again, that was what everyone was talking about, but because of what I had done,
here we go.
Everyone, okay, you want me to read it?
Yes, this post.
Yep, there's a picture of me.
Yeah.
And
let me turn up the brightness.
But yeah, this is my picture. my glower.
Looking like Ellen DeGeneres, pissed off. I'm just playing.
Okay, so here's what I wrote, and here's the thing that went viral. When it was announced that we were going on disaster this round, we were warned of its challenges. Long, hard work days, communal, not the nicest living conditions, physical and mental fatigue. They said if we couldn't handle it, we could stay behind and do other work, and those of us that did go would not stay longer than a month. Well, most of us have been here for 2 months now, and those that stayed or were kept behind have been brought into the field. Understandable, I suppose, considering the level of devastation left by the flooding and the number of Louisianans who still need help. But the fact remains, the whole of Atlantic region is down here and has been for a long time. And because we're so far away, visits from staff are a bit of an event. Yesterday, a unit leader spoke to us about how it was our last week of work and we could do better. She criticized the state of our uniforms, was unhappy with the lack of enthusiasm in our morning recitation of the AmeriCorps pledge, remarked how she was skeptical some of us had showered and that some people's hair was unkempt and in dire need of a barber. Well, excuse us. You come down here to check on us during our last week, and this is what we get? Instead of encouraging us and being supportive after what, for many of us, has been the toughest 2 months of our lives, you go off on how we're not looking the part? You tell us that the teams from California, who just arrived and are in their first round, have it together better than we do? Well, I'd like to see what they look like after 2 months, because I think they'd start to look a little disheveled and exhausted too. Excuse us for not wearing proper uniform. Those of us who are missing items or need ones that aren't destroyed have repeatedly requested replacements with limited success. That's why people have been wearing their dress pants out in the field. Excuse us for not smelling real great. We do hard labor in Tyvek suits and we sweat. And we wear our clothes multiple days in a row, especially if you're one of the people missing uniform pieces, because laundry is 30 minutes away. It's really only convenient to do it once a week. Excuse us for not having our hair done. Didn't you tell us before we left that we should probably get a haircut now because who knows when you'll get another chance? This is something that she said like literally before we were deployed for Louisiana. We're busy. We're broke. Almost everything is closed on our days off and is half an hour away. Most people are just waiting to do it in Baltimore, and you're worried about how we'll look at graduation? Excuse us for not sounding all that into it when we say our pledge. For a lot of us, it feels like we're going through the motions at this point. And it doesn't help that the people in charge who come down here, stay in hotels for a few days, and leave after telling us to tuck in our shirts offer to little to no praise or encouragement. Or at least address legitimate problems we face, such as mold in our housing, how ironic, lack of supplies, or mental breakdowns. If we don't seem like we care about AmeriCorps, it's because it doesn't seem like AmeriCorps cares about us. But they want us to look good. Well, today I'm going to wear my shirt backwards to Drew, our daily roundup, their name for the morning assembly, because AmeriCorps has its priorities backwards. Will this accomplish anything? Probably not. But if it's appearances they care about, I'm going to give them something to look at. I was so pissed off. Okay, so it's like...
There's my comment.
So, like, yes, 77 likes, and then just a bazillion comments. A lot of them from people I don't even know. But yeah, this thing like spread like wildfire. And when I came back that day, my team leader came up to me and said, I don't know what you're trying to do, but congratulations, you are now a martyr. Because apparently it had spread so much and so fast that literally everyone, like AmeriCorps, everyone in AmeriCorps knew about it. Like our region director heard about it from her boss because her boss found out about it first. Like it literally went all the way to the top. And there were people that wanted me dismissed for saying what I said. Now I'll admit, I was being a little snarky.
I think at that point you just didn't care if you were dismissed or not.
I really didn't. This whole post, honestly, like I didn't think it was going to do anything. It was mostly just a fuck you. Like I genuinely didn't think anything would happen. But then it was like everybody was like behind this and people started commenting saying, I'm going to wear my shirt backwards tomorrow. Yeah, let's do it. Let's all do it.
And that's when the teamers were like, no, don't do that because you'll lose your scholarship.
Yeah, because, okay, uniform, like not wearing a uniform correctly, like maybe you'll get a write-up or something for it, but it's honestly a pretty minor violation. But because of this post and because of what happened and because like people, like the people who like manage AmeriCorps, like not just NCCC, but like the people from like the national, you know, like this literally went all the way to the top. And they basically made a rule saying anyone who wears their shirt backwards is getting an automatic dismissal. So yeah, the 3 things that get you an automatic dismissal: using illicit drugs, providing alcohol to a minor, and wearing your shirt backwards. AmeriCorps, everybody. But yeah, because of this, all the team leaders met individually with their teams and were just like, okay, we understand you're upset. We're upset too, but please don't do this, because they have made this new rule. Like, if any of you participate in this or wear your shirt backwards, like, you are getting kicked out. It's too late in the year.
But
to
they
risk.
applauded you still.
They did. No, that was the thing. It's like, I thought, like, some people would be like, yeah, preach girl or whatever, but I didn't think everyone would be on board with it, because, like, okay, yeah, like, it's too late in the year, like, what do you even, like, what good is this? No, literally everyone. And Corps members, team leaders, like, literally everyone was, like, on my side, and I was really surprised, and, like...
Because, so we did have a meeting, and this took place at the military base where...
Yeah, because what happened, because of all this, they ended up arranging for someone to fly out. It was actually the other counselor, not the counselor that we'd had problems with, but this other woman came down to, like, hold this meeting and basically ask, okay, what's going on? So, like, they forestalled our work for that day, basically, to have this meeting. And yeah, they brought everybody together.
And I remember, so basically, she was there to address any issues we had, even though it was like we had like 1 week left. It was kind of too late at that point.
Yeah.
But I think...
And she went off about how, you need to be careful about what you post on Facebook, because future employers might see that, and she did her little spiel. And I get it. Like, I did this through Facebook, which probably wasn't the best means of voicing my grievances, but the thing is, everyone else in the Corps, whenever they had a problem with something, they would do it the proper way. They'd talk to their team leader, and if that didn't work, they'd talk to their unit leader. If that didn't work, they'd talk to the region director, and things still wouldn't happen. If there was a concern about something, things wouldn't get addressed, even through proper means. So it's like, at this point, where else but Facebook, basically.
Yeah, and I remember that day, the meeting, because even the people who were in Zachary, we had to go. So basically, I just remember everyone who wanted to speak out put in their 2 cents.
People I'd never heard speak before, like, got up in front of everybody and, like,
yeah, a lot of people spoke out. I almost spoke up, but I just kind of, like,
a lot of people
back.
wanted to, and, like, she had to cut it off because she was only supposed to be there for, like, an hour. And, like, when she was about to cut it off, there were still a lot of people with, like, their hands raised.
But the last person who got the last word was yours truly. And I remember it was really epic. I remember feeling so proud of you, because I remember you stood up and everyone just burst
clapping.
Into
applause.
Yeah,
and I swear it lasted for like a good solid minute of just people clapping and cheering.
Yeah.
Like, all I did was stand up. I didn't say a word.
And basically, Madeline just recapped basically, what she said on the post, and everyone that spoke before her was basically just, just saying the same thing, like, that it wasn't right, it wasn't fair, and then also even mentioning that, this is all just kind of like one big fucking vent fest, because, it's over, basically.
Yeah.
So by the time Madeline finished what she said, I guess the counselor said that they were gonna do better or something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember afterwards, when we all departed, like, I could tell everyone was just over it, because, like, we were about to graduate in a few weeks and everyone was just done. But there were people visibly upset still, like, they were definitely, like, over it,
Yeah, I mean, I was over it. I mean, I felt better. Like, honestly, that was probably one of my better moments in AmeriCorps, because, yeah, I remember afterwards, and they, like, dismissed everybody. Everyone came up to me and was, like, hugging me and, like, talking to me and hugging me and, like, grabbing my hand. I mean, like, I swear a couple people kissed me. I don't even remember. Like, I honestly don't remember a lot of that day. Like, I remember standing up and I remember talking, but I don't even remember what I said.
A saint. That's what you became. An AmeriCorps saint. Ameri saint.
Yes. Ameri everything. But yeah, so it's like I felt a little better after that. And to their credit, they listened. Like, we came back to Baltimore and we were, like, preparing for graduation. We were preparing to leave, and they listened. Yeah, basically, they talked to everybody and were like, okay, what's happened this year? What happened that didn't go so well, and, how could we fix it? So all the units met together, and then the staff did this big presentation, this big PowerPoint. It's like, okay, we talked to everybody, we listened, and here's some common things that we've been hearing, and here's what we're going to do better next year. And so, yeah, I saw that. It's like, okay, maybe, we didn't have the best time of it, but hopefully the next class will. So, yeah, to their credit, they did do something about it. But, yeah, at that point, the damage had kind of been done. I mean, we were all done. And I remember after graduation sitting and, eating my little piece of cake. I'm in my dress uniform. I've got my medal. I've got my pins. I've got, all the things, and I've got my cake. And I remember just sitting and listening to everybody around, because this, we graduate and then literally they're shooing us out, because people have to leave on these vans to go to the airport to get sent home.
Yeah.
And so it's everyone is running around, oh, let's take one last team picture. Where's so-and-so? Are they still wearing the uniform or not? And I remember just sitting there by myself, listening to everybody, and all I could think was, I just want to go home. I just want to leave. I just want to get out of here. I don't even care at this point. I'm looking at my team, and these are people that I've been with basically for 10 months. And in a way, I almost feel like they're still strangers. In certain ways, I grew close to some of them, but because of the inconsistent socialization I had, it still felt I still felt distance. I almost don't. It's I may never see these people again, but on a level, I kind of don't. Not that I don't care, but I'm very accepting of it. And then I went home. One of my teammates was actually from Minnesota, so we went home on the same flight, and got to say goodbye to each other at the airport. That was kind of surreal. But then my parents picked me up and took me home, and I remember we were driving home, and going through all the familiar areas. I'm back in my hometown, back in my home city, and all the familiar roads and streets, and the smell of my dad's car, and just all the familiar homey things coming back. And I'm so sorry, I keep scratching my nose, it's itchy. It's it almost felt like it was a dream, or it didn't happen. And I was just, and I was it almost feels like I dreamed it, and I'm honestly okay with that. I was okay with the idea of it being something that wasn't real, something that didn't actually happen. Because when I came home, I was really, really tired. I slept a lot. Well, I mean, I'd just come from 2 months of disaster relief, and so I was physically very tired, and also just emotionally drained. But when I came back, I had a lot of mental health issues. I was depressed. Well, my anxiety was really intense. I was having really bad panic attacks. I tried to, my parents tried to take me to a concert at this one bar that they were familiar with this band. It was kind of a local band, and they invited me to come because I was 21 at that point, so I was actually able to go. And I was just saying, I don't feel good. I don't think I should go. I don't want to. And my mom's like, no, come on. You come out, do something. Maybe it'll help you feel better. You need to get out and do something. And we were there, and we got in. And then after 10 minutes or so, I went to the bathroom, and I was just crying and hyperventilating, and I couldn't handle it. And that was happening a lot after I came back. At work, I would have panic attacks pretty often. I would go, because I worked at the time. I worked in the produce department of a Target, of a super Target, and I would go into our back cooler, or I'd go into the bathroom to hide and cry because I was having an episode. And so it's I need to work, and I was hoping that maybe if I just work and get back into the swing of things, I'll feel better. But then it's I keep having these panic attacks and these episodes, and I feel like shit. And then I started getting really depressed, and I had a lot of feelings that I was still processing about my entire AmeriCorps experience. And after a while, I eventually saw a therapist again, to just talk about feelings. At that point, At that point, I thought that most of my issues were related to like my relationship with this one guy on my team. And I thought maybe that was like the main source of it all, but I was also just like, you know, all these things happened, and like I don't know, like I'm having depression and anxiety episodes, and I need a way to like deal with that. And so like I started working again. After a few months, I went on a dating website and I found myself a boyfriend really quickly, and we're still together, you know, over a year later, and I love him. So it's like, you know, that happened, and then like I started working full time, and eventually I started looking for an apartment, and like I started like building myself back up again, and like so it's like I went into therapy. Like I think I started therapy in like early January. That was when I was able to get in, January of 2017. So that was when I first got in, and then my last appointment was like early May. So like only like 4-ish months of seeing this person. I was actually looking through my phone to see like when I saw her, and like at that point I was only seeing her every other month. Every month. And so it's like I guess at that point, like instead of my previous therapist that I had seen, who I saw for like over a year, this woman I only saw for like 4 months or so, and I like had tapered off like pretty quickly. So I thought, I guess, that I was like doing better. Like I managed to work through like my feelings and my frustration and my anger, and my stress and my anxiety. So it's like I have a new relationship that I'm working on. I started working full time. I eventually like signed a lease for an apartment. I went to visit you the summer after the program ended. I actually went to go visit her, and so it's like, and that was, you were the second person from AmeriCorps that I saw after the program, because the first one was actually my team leader. He moved to my city, and I was just like, what? And so like we actually went out at one point, and like he drove me home, and so it's like me and him are sitting in his car like in front of my parents' house, and I'm like, yep, this is where I've lived for the past 21 years. And it's like, this is so weird. And, oh my god, the bugs. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sorry.
Just to wrap up, it's getting dark.
Okay, yeah.
Just wrap up, like, so basically, you know, we became very good friends because of this program. There were definitely a lot of good things that we both got out of the program. I just know that Madeline had a very, very devastating experience overall.
Yeah, more so than I expected, because, like I said, my depression and anxiety especially, were in overdrive when I came back. I was constantly thinking about AmeriCorps. Like I would constantly like think about it, even in situations where I really shouldn't have been, and like almost like replaying memories in my head all the time. And like certain smells or like a song or something, it would like take me back. My mental health was way worse than it was. You know, I joined AmeriCorps to combat my mental health, and I ended up having to go back into therapy afterwards because of it. And like probably like a little over a month or so, I remember this one instance where my parents and I went out to eat, and it was wintertime at that point, and so this restaurant had a shovel leaning in their doorway because they'd have to shovel snow off of the sidewalk. And I looked at that shovel, and it was the exact same shovel, like the exact same model or style of shovel that we'd used in Louisiana to clean debris. And I remember looking at this shovel, just sitting there in the doorway of this restaurant, and I immediately just felt this incredible surge of anger and like hatred, and like I was on edge and like just in a bad mood like for the rest of that night. And it's like, it's literally a shovel. Like, why am I so mad at the shovel? And like other things would happen, like I would just get stressed. Like if I looked at pictures, I would just start getting really stressed. Because I didn't really talk to anybody much after AmeriCorps. Like there would be a stray conversation here and there, but like even my teammates, like I didn't really talk to them very often. And I didn't really talk about AmeriCorps at all. And like I didn't really realize this until my mom mentioned it. Because it's like you go through an experience like AmeriCorps, and it's like, oh, you want to tell everybody about it, and you want to share your experiences or whatever, and like people ask you about it. And I was afraid of people asking me about it, because like I didn't want anybody asking about it, because like I had so much like baggage from it. But yeah, my mom like came up to me at one point and said, you don't talk about AmeriCorps. Like this is months afterward, and she's like, you don't talk about it. And then when I went to go see you, like I was kind of stressed too when I went to go meet my team leader for drinks. But when I went to go visit her, like I wanted to go visit her, and like that was July of 2017. So this is months and months after we've come home. And like I wanted to see her, I was excited to see her, but then once I was there, I was like weirdly stressed, like during the whole time. Like it was like I wanted to be there, but then I didn't want to be there. I couldn't really place it. Like I wanted to be there, and I ended up enjoying myself there, but it was just this weird thing. And and then a few months ago, one of my teammates who lives in Montana, he was flying out to New York, and he happened to stop in Minneapolis for a layover, and I live in Minneapolis. And so he's like, hey, I'm going to be here for like 4 hours. Like, do you want to hang out? And I'm like, okay. And so I go to the airport to meet him, and we talk, and it was a little awkward because like we haven't seen each other in a while, and like he's socially awkward and I'm socially awkward, and like eventually we kind of get to a conversation going, just talking about like where we've been and what we've done. But after he left, I went to the bathroom of the airport, and I just like had a panic attack. And like I was just like, I just started crying and like shaking, and I just didn't understand, because it was the first time I had been to the airport since I came home. It's the first time I've seen him since I came home, and so it's like meeting this old teammate of mine, and being in a location that reminded me of AmeriCorps. Like I broke down. And I remember riding the train, back from the airport back to Minneapolis, and just thinking to myself, this is not normal. Like, this is not, I shouldn't be having a panic attack just from seeing an old friend. And so I just started thinking about it and processing everything and reading up on mental health, and realizing that, being in certain locations and having like certain memories that were associated with AmeriCorps, the fact that my depression and anxiety were in overdrive for months after I came back, the fact that I did not want to talk about it, the fact that I was constantly replaying things in my head, the fact that I just, just seeing anybody, even people I liked, would like, it triggered this anxiety. And I didn't have nightmares, but I would dream about AmeriCorps, so I don't know if that really counts, but I would frequently dream about it. But I don't think they were really nightmares, but I was just looking through everything, and I was realizing that a lot of the things that I experienced, like the experience with the shovel, I was starting to realize that a lot of the things that I was going through really lined up with post-traumatic stress disorder. And that was really hard to admit. Yeah, like the fact that the last 2 months of my service were disaster relief, experiencing, being in a disaster area, witnessing that, like that can contribute. The fact that I was so burnt out, over the whole year, and like the fact that I felt trapped, the fact that I felt I had no control. There were times I felt I had no control over my own body. Like I was having some physical health issues too. Like, so it's like the fact that I had no control, feeling like I had no control, feeling I didn't have a means of escape, because it's like, okay, if I leave AmeriCorps, like I have nothing to go back to. Like I came here to like do something with my life and have a direction for my life. Like if I go back without any like scholarship or without any like anything to show for it, like I'll have nothing. Like I can't leave. Like all these little things and all these experiences, I realized that, I probably had, like, if I didn't have full-on PTSD, I had something similar. It was hard to admit to myself that was possibly or probably my problem, because it's like, you know, I shouldn't get PTSD from AmeriCorps. Like, that's not something that causes that. You know, you're a war veteran, or you're a police officer, or you're, you know, an EMT. You're somebody who actually, you know, you're a rape survivor. You're someone who's actually gone through something like worse than me. There are people that go through things worse than me, that have this, and like, oh, I was in a volunteer program and it gave me PTSD, and like, that's such an awkward thing for me to say, and like, I don't like saying it, and I feel like I'm being dramatic, or that I'm blowing it out of proportion, or something, because I look at everybody else who's been in AmeriCorps and they've had a better time of it, and they've had happier memories and happier experiences, and I feel like I'm just being a negative Nancy all the time, and
But it was a very understandable situation for her, and I'm sure that she wasn't the only one who felt that way.
I mean, everyone talks about that year kind of left some scars, or that it was frustrating, or yeah, it wasn't that great a year, but like, whatever, life goes on. And the fact that it hasn't gone on for me.
Well, it hasn't gone on for me either, but I definitely think I experienced a different kind of trauma from AmeriCorps, different from hers, but nevertheless, like, I haven't been the same since AmeriCorps happened. I have not been the same person, and I think it's it. And I'll get into that with my own video. But I know with Madeline, it was a huge letdown. And
it was not what I expected.
Yeah, and the reason why I did this video with her is because I actually witnessed her going through a very hard time. And I don't think it was just one factor into play. I think it was just several things going on at the same time. Yeah, just to wrap this video up, because it's getting...
Yeah, I know. We've been talking a long time.
Yeah, like almost an hour and a half. So that was a more negative rant about the AmeriCorps experience regarding Atlantic region of 2016. If you all are considering joining AmeriCorps, I can honestly say I would definitely do it.
Honestly, I think most people that do the program have a good experience. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah, I mean, like, from like my end too, at least, like, I'm just saying, like, I think it is worth trying out, but I'm just putting this video out there as kind of like a warning, you know, just to get some of you all prepared that what could happen.
Because AmeriCorps, I mean, they want people to join, so of course they're going to be, like, their website is going to be posting all the good stories and the good stuff, and like people talking about how wonderful it was and how life-changing it was. And it is definitely life-changing, to say the least. I carry this commitment with me more than I would like. So yeah, I think, to be honest, and like I said at the beginning, there are so many things that go into an AmeriCorps experience. You know, no one has the same experience, you know, and people who serve multiple years have very different experiences each year. So like, don't be afraid of AmeriCorps. Like, this video isn't to like make you not join AmeriCorps. It's just to show you that, you know, it's not gonna be all sunshine and roses, most likely.
Like my team leader said, it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. And even if you are willing to, you know, you're willing to go, you're rearing to go, like, you're ready, like me, like, I was so ready to do this, and I still got broken down really bad. Like, just be aware anything can happen. Like, I hope that if you do this program, you have a good experience. I really do. And to everyone out there who has done the program and has had a good experience, I'm glad for you. But for me, you know, when I see this A, I honestly don't know what I feel anymore. You know, even after all this time, there's still a lot of feelings. And I'm working on it. You know, I'm working on processing it. And honestly, I'm doing a lot better than I was. And like, especially now that I've kind of admitted that what I have is sort of probably a post-traumatic thing. And to be fair, I don't have an official medical diagnosis for this. I'm just gonna make that clear, because I don't wanna, like, you know, I'm very big on like mental health awareness and everything, and I don't want to delegitimize it. But I have spoken, there's a family friend of mine who is a mental health professional, and I spoke with her in an informal setting just for a bit of advice, and I explained kind of what was going on, and I explained various symptoms, things that I hadn't told my first therapist about it. And she's like, yeah, that honestly does sound like PTSD and burnout especially. And yeah, it does sound like you have something going on. And like, if I were honestly to submit to like an assessment, basically, to see if I had it, I wouldn't have it at this point because my symptoms are too mild and too infrequent, and like I've gotten it together enough. What is this? I think it's still just recording normally. There's just a thing on the screen. But yeah, it's hard to admit that this hurt me as much as it did. It still is. I wish it didn't. And like, I'm not saying that my whole experience was terrible. It wasn't. Like, there were good times and good memories, but it just seems like they're really hard to remember sometimes. And so hopefully with time it gets easier. It's already gotten easier with time. And I've had some good friends. We've helped each other through a lot. So,
yep. You could definitely find, like, and again, like, we're gonna cut this video
we've
now,
been out here for a long
but
time.
I'll say that, despite her horrible time and some of my horrible times, we found each other. I'm from Kentucky. This is Kentucky. She's all the way from Minneapolis.
Thank you for pronouncing it correctly. Yes.
Okay, so thank you guys for watching. Go ahead and comment your thoughts, or yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yep.
See ya.
See ya. Yeah.